All right, we are live, and we've got Kristie Huggins here. Super excited to have you here, Kristie, from across the world. She's in Australia, and I'm in Idaho Falls, Idaho, in the United States, and so we are on completely different time zones. But excited to have you here nonetheless, Kristie. So,
morning and night.
Morning and night, exactly. So, awesome. So, Kristie, give us just a quick introduction. I know I'm gonna spoil it, but I want you to say it too. You've lost 18 pounds in like 6 weeks, right? And we're gonna share a photo below as well after the video that you'll see that is just really cool. Kristie said we could share. So, Kristie, go ahead and just give us a quick introduction of yourself.
So my name's Kristie Huggins, and obviously, I'm here in Australia, and I actually was into self-image, and I have my own makeup, like organic makeup line. So, and I'm very much into the whole care of the body and chemicals on the skin and all that sort of stuff. And pretty much, I came up to a problem with my own self and my own self-image. And rather than hiding it, I sought support in it. And that's where it led me to you.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah,
very cool. Well, I'm glad that you did. It's I've loved being part of the journey so far, and of course the continued journey as well. So tell us a little bit about kind of the history with your health, your weight, what kind of led up to some of the things that got you to the point where you're like, okay, I need to get some kind of help or guidance here.
So most of my life I've been pretty healthy. My 20s I would disregard as an alcoholic, no, and a drive-through junkie. But something happens when you start to have children, you start to become a little bit more health conscious. But I'm now 41, and I had this, I was like, you turn 40 and everything, it plummets to gravity. And I was like, no, that's not true for me. Well, I tell you what, I turned 40 and gravity was taking over. But I've now had 3 children. So my youngest one is 18 months. I have a 3-year-old and an 11-year-old. And the last 2 years, our family, especially me, we've become very health conscious because my husband was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and we've been going through the whole health journey to find how to bring his health back to balance. And we sold everything we had, our house, our lives, our everything, to put into finding a way to regenerate our bodies back into health. And we self-fund ourselves now with like blood tests and things like that. And I was like, Ben's got like terminal cancer, and I had this tiny little problem of like an 8-month looking pregnant belly. And we went vegan for 2 years. We've tried, juice. We did a whole bunch of stuff. And it was great at the time because I'd never been vegan. I'd never done juicing, definitely didn't do anything to do with fasting unless I didn't have time to eat. That was what I called fasting. But pretty much health was kind of like, okay, as long as you eat fruit, veggies, and not junk food, right? But there's so much more to it. Like the thought patterns before you eat is the healthy part to look at, because the food is only a result of what you're thinking before you're about to eat it. And obviously with Ben's terminal cancer journey and how big emotions have in it, we were like, okay, we're aware of all of this stuff, and we felt we were up there with it. And then physically, when you look at yourself and you're like, something's not right here. Like, I'm growing a baby belly and there's no baby. And it diminishes, and people would look at me like I'm not a big person. Like I was only nearly 60 kilos, and that's not a big person. And a lot of people be like, oh, you're skinny, you're fine. But I would dress to hide the growing belly, because with my husband's cancer journey, I became an emotional eater, and psychologically I thought I was handling it, and I wasn't. Because I started and I used a lot of mindset to get over the don't eat junk food. I haven't drank alcohol in like 10 years, but I don't smoke. We don't eat chemical foods. Like that's only because researching all the toxins and things in food and water and how that affects the body and your brain, how to think. We're like, something's not right. But even knowing this stuff, but I was like, what's not making sense? Why the hell am I getting a belly if I'm vegan, not eating all the bad stuff? I'm exercising, like I became running and all of that. I'm just like, but I was still getting a belly. A shameful belly. I'd already had the baby. And when my daughter, who was 3, she's like, baby belly? No, darling, there's not. But and I had a lot of guilt around that. This is such a stupid belief. I had a lot of guilt around, I'm not big enough to be in a weight loss program. And I'm like, that in itself is disturbing. Like, if you have something that you feel is not right and you want to fix it, I suggest fixing it. If it's like losing 500 grams or 1 kilo or 2 kilos, but I was like, I want to lose 10 kilos seemed miniature. And I just couldn't do it by myself. And yes, I had a lot of training behind me, a lot of mindset behind me, but I was stressed to the hills emotionally in survival mode that I didn't know from watching your course program with the whole, like, you're aware of the survival instinct, but I didn't realize that running, exercising was like still running from a tiger, and that like sitting's the new smoking. And I was like, your whole new perception was like, holy shit, I never looked at it like that. And then, we stalked the hell out of you before we went there. But I was like, well, it's belly fat and I have a belly and I want to lose it. And I didn't tell anyone because I felt really shameful that I wasn't big enough to be in a weight loss program. Well, I tell you what, I did keep it to myself until I'd lost 6 kilos in the first couple of weeks. And I was like,
and hold on, 6 kilos, for those who don't know the conversions, is about 13 pounds in conversions. Just so everybody who's watching is like, I don't know what kilos are, because nobody in the United States does,
sorry.
So.
And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then I got a bit more confidence. And the funny part is, like, teaching people about self-image in regards to makeup and hair and all the cosmetic side of things, it's really internally is where the cosmetic needs to be. And people, like, they go, your makeup's amazing and you look beautiful all the time. Yeah, that's only because the genetic makeup inside is beautiful and therefore reflected outside. And when you put your makeup on, it sits on beautiful skin that's got no acne or pigment or pores that are exposed, and the chemicals that are on your skin aren't killing it, so your body's not trying to get rid of it, which causes all the inflammations, like you say, and all the stuff. So when you're healthy on the inside, everything sits better outside. And people are like, you've got this radiant glow about you, and they're like, what makeup's that? And it's like, I design my own makeup, and I can tell you there's not one makeup product on the planet that will make you look better. It may cover things, but psychologically, you're going to know it's there. No one else will, but you cannot cover that up. So I was like, yeah, this is some cool. Like, so I had a bit more confidence, and I started wearing less makeup and teaching people less makeup, because when you do your inside, your genetic makeup, you don't need as much. You just do it for fun then. It's not to change who you are.
Yeah, awesome. Very cool. I know you guys have had a serious journey with Ben and your guys' health journey and it's, it's when you wake up and you're like, well, why am I eating healthy and I have a belly? And it's okay. Like, there's a lot of people that are like, gosh, I'm not 100 pounds overweight. I'm not, grossly obese. And so it's like, well, I got this. I'll just deal with it or whatever. And we kind of feel like we can't do it. But I totally agree with everything. That it doesn't matter if it's 1 pound, 10 pounds, 20 pounds. The key is we got to get healthy, and that radiates on the outside. I posted the other day, just to give an example of this too. I was clean shaven. It's a little scruffy, but I shaved for the first time in years, like actually clean shaven. And I don't know how many comments I got, messages back saying, you look 15 years old. It's like, I can assure you I'm not 15 years old, But that's the beautiful thing is when you're healthy on the inside, it's going to come out on the outside. And I've been eating healthy for 10 years. And I truly believe that, like, sure, maybe some like literal genetics, like, make me look younger or whatever. But I think that, like, my wife and I both, like, people are like, how old are you guys? We're like, they're like, what, are you in your early 20s? We're like, nope. Like, it's been 15 years since that. So we, I think that's a true testament to say, I don't wear makeup, of course, but I totally understand what you're talking about that way.
Oh,
So.
dear, no.
So cool. So, okay. So you've come through the program, and you've lost about 18 pounds so far, and which is super exciting, which is, I don't know how many kilos that is, but
It's nearly 7.
7.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So super exciting. So tell us, what else has happened? Like, what else have you experienced through the process? I know you've learned some things like you mentioned before. So tell us a little bit about kind of what you've experienced over the last, like, 6-7 weeks.
I took some notes because I wanted to make sure I remembered. So the best thing probably for the program was the support that you guys give, and that every week there's a check-in, and you actually have, like, email backup. You have the app. Oh, that's what I wrote down. The best part was the tracking, that we kept the tracking, which kept me on track.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was the most of it, like, to keep on track, like, to record it. And without recording it, like, on my graph, psychologically, I watched it go down. I was like, yeah, this is cool. And then, like, halfway down, I'm like, oh my God, like, I'm nearly there. And then the tracking part was really cool, like how you keep it on track, because a lot of self-discipline isn't quite there in the beginning, because that's why we are the way we are. And, to learn how to be self-disciplined to maintain that, keeping that new track. Like, it was hard. Like, the first week I was, like, tracking on the dot. And then, like, the last week, I'm like, the second week, I noticed I started doing it more in the afternoon. I went, oh, I was aware of my behavior. And then I was like, anyway, but yous would send, hey, you've got to, you haven't logged or whatever. And, but yeah, the main thing that I've learned was there are other people, like, when we have group calls, I loved hearing your structure in that, because I hadn't heard that before. Like, it was really cool, that structure. Like, what did they, the logistical win and a mindset win, what's the struggle, and then set a goal. I'm like, that's really quite cool. I valued that structure every week. And thanks. Yeah. But the knowledge that you have, like, on your little videos, and my husband watched it. He's like, wow, so you've actually indirectly helped him, because he's like, I didn't know that.
Cool.
I said, well, maybe you should do that too, hun. And he goes, do I get the stuff? No, you don't get that stuff, but you got to eat differently to me, hun. We want you to put weight on.
Yeah.
But we watched your videos as a family. We made it movie night. It was our Netflix.
Wow. I'm honored to know that I was in the Huggins home on the TV. So
the kids are like, awesome. We watching Jared? Yeah, we're watching Jared.
Awesome. That's great. Glad to hear it. So very cool.
That's pretty cool.
Good. Well, I'm glad we find that's a huge component, right? You got to have accountability. You got to have support. You got to have community, because you learn from others, and we have to learn the knowledge, of course, too, like the education behind why we're struggling and why we have a belly and why it won't go away. And even though, like, for you, like, you were eating this and you were eating, like, super clean, and there's some specific key things that we look at when it comes to fat storage, particularly in the midsection, that we talk a lot about, right, in those videos. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I'm pleased that, like, what was said worked, and that backed it up, because there's a lot of people who say this will happen and then it doesn't, and then that just disheartens you. But this was and I love the part where I had that same belief that weight loss should be a slow process. And in my mind, I'm like, I don't want to hold on to that any longer than I have to. I want this shit off. Like, and when you made that okay, I was like, I like it. I'm up with that.
Yeah. I always say slow and steady never wins the race when it comes to weight loss, because you never get there. Everybody gives up too soon. So I say fast and permanent. Fast and permanent is always better.
Yeah.
Slow and steady only, they say to do that because people starve themselves and then they can't keep the weight off. And that, I agree. Like, you shouldn't lose weight fast if you're just starving. That's not going to be good for you. But fast and permanent is really the key. So
And I love the
awesome.
part where it didn't feel like you were hungry. Like it was just actually resetting the amounts. Like I found one of them was, you realize you start off small, like this is before the program, and you don't realize that you just naturally, your plate just gets bigger and bigger.
Right.
And then I didn't realize that when I started. I went, okay, just got to bring it back a little bit. And I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that actually got out of hand. I may be eating healthy, but it was too much of whatever it was. So
Yeah.
good. Yeah, resetting that clock in your mind.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Which I think is huge. I mean, when we're starving and we're trying to lose weight, like it's cool to lose weight, but if you're hungry all the time, like that's not going to work. So balancing that, like I'm not hungry, but I'm learning how much to eat, and the knowledge behind like what foods to eat obviously is key. So that's huge. Awesome. Very cool. Anything else that you kind of learned or discovered that you might find helpful for other people, or things that you experience as you've gone through the process?
How easy it is. And the fact that health is the priority. And if you're seen as weird for that, you're on the right track.
I like that. I like that. It's a great way to look at it. Health is a priority. If you seem weird, then you know you're on the right track.
It's mind-boggling that when we started out a health journey, and all the people we've met along the way, including yourself, it's like people like looking at us that we're the psychopaths. And I'm just like, it's mind-boggling that that's a normal thought.
Yeah.
That's not normal.
Yeah.
And realizing that when you start out on a health journey, people are going to be like, I'll just have this. Oh, you'll be fine. It's only a piece of cake. It's only a piece of this. And it's like, when you value your body, your health, and what you want to live for, and especially because my husband has terminal cancer and facing that death phase, if you can do that before a disease that's threatening your life occurs, then a little bit of criticism is okay. And if someone's criticizing you for your health, they're not the friend you want. Go and find the friend you need.
Yeah. Wow.
It's
That's so key. Like I love that saying. If that's not the friend you want, you got to find the friend you need, because that's a huge thing that I hear that all the time. I'll just have a piece. It's just a holiday. We just had Thanksgiving in the United States, and it's like, it's just a piece. It's one day of the year. It's like, no. If you don't value your health in a way, like, and you know this, and when I know this, that cancer doesn't just happen. Heart disease doesn't just happen. Diabetes doesn't just happen. It's a development over decades. And what we put in our body now, or what we put in our children's bodies now, is going to determine if we get those things. And that's, I think, what you're saying is that, it starts with that one decision every single day, which is huge. So, yeah, that's massive. Yeah, I love that. So that's huge. I think that's kind of the key is showing that love to ourselves, that we can do this daily. Right?
Yeah, actually, that self-love. When someone says, "Oh, that's the buzzword, right? Self-love." And especially like, oh, just love yourself. I'm going to go and have some cake and toxic food. Oh, it's self-love. And I'm going to fill a bath full of toxic soaps and shit that's got like, but it's self-love. And I'm like, if we really value self-love, you wouldn't be putting toxic shit in your bath, and you wouldn't be putting toxic food in your body, or putting toxic water into your system, and all this, personal care products and all the other stuff, and the sources, the things, and the people. Like, if you really value self-love, you'll find that you'll lose everything you are, and you'll have to find everything new, because self-love is it's nurturing your cells with what it needs, not what society dictates.
Yeah, totally. And I say it all the time, self-love is not accepting our body as overweight and being okay with that. Sure, I don't mean put yourself down, and don't shame yourself. Don't beat yourself up for it. But just, that's not self-love. Self-love is taking care of yourself. Self-love is treating your body the right way. And I hear it all the time. People are like, I'm going to go celebrate now that I've lost all this weight. It's like, what you're saying is like, I just grew a beautiful garden, and now I'm just going to pour gasoline on it.
Yeah.
Like, why would you ever do that? It makes no sense.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
awesome. Well, very cool. Those are amazing, like, mindsets for health, amazing things to go through and experience. anything that you feel like as someone's coming through the program or maybe thinking about doing the program, words, thoughts for them as far as like, what would you say to someone who's just getting started or someone who's like maybe on the fence about getting started? What are your thoughts for them?
I wrote it coolly. I don't see any logic in sitting on a fence. Because if it's something you want, you should go get it. There is no logic sitting on a fence. If you're sitting on a fence, you already know the answer. You got to jump the fence. Like, that's the only logic. There's, oh, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. You're questioning your own value, and that's not logical. So sitting on the fence is going to electrify your butt. So you have to move what? Like, it's an electric fence. You don't want to be sitting on that, because you're going to get burnt every time you stay sitting on it. You have to make a choice. And when making that choice, if you're sitting on the fence, I'd be asking myself, well, who am I going to upset? Who's going to be disappointed? Who am I scared of losing? Who am I thinking about that I'm worried as to why I'm sitting on the fence, why I'm not going to do this? Then I'd be looking at that and go, is that person or that really worth valuing you? Like, you're never going to be happy when you're going to keep burning your ass sitting on a fence. So there's no logic in, you've just got to jump. You got to jump the fence. And the only way to learn is to jump. Yes, you may have a burnt ass, but it heals and it will heal faster because you're getting healthier, which will increase your cells and your immune system. And it's not burnt for long. You actually will gain a better field.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would say that the biggest regret people have of doing my program is that they didn't do it sooner. That's what I hear all the time is like, I talked to someone a year ago or 18 months ago, and they're like, they're doing the program now. Like, I wish I would have done this 18 months ago. Like, I don't know why I didn't. And it's, I say, like, you got to examine the cost of if you stay where you're at, what is that going to look like? What's the cost of staying where you're at versus the cost of doing this, whether that's financial, emotional, spiritual, whatever, social, like, I would say, like, that's absolutely right. You got to get on one side of the fence or the other. Like, embrace where you're at. If you don't want to make the change, fine, just embrace it and just stay unhealthy and do whatever you want. But if you want to make it, like, the time to do it is now. Otherwise, it's just going to get worse. We're never going to be truly happy. So I like that. Because
when we decided to commit to the program, I said, Ben, I'm going to do this. And he's like, are you going to do it now or, wait till the 1st of January? And I was like, I'll still have a gut in January. I don't want the gut now. I don't want the belly now. I said, the only thing that's annoying is that it's nighttime there and it's daytime here, and he doesn't know I want it yet.
Yeah, I like that.
And
I like
so
it.
If I had waited, I've already reached 75% of what I wanted. And I've still got 2 months before I thought I might, wait till the 1st of January. I'm already there. Like, you don't realize how fast you get there as soon as you say, I'm doing it now. Like, move the mountain. Like, when you're faced with like a health thing, you don't have life if you don't have health. Like, health is our number one value in our family, and we will do everything in our power to make it known to better ourselves in that. And not everyone thinks that way because and that's okay, but eventually they'll be forced to make a choice. So it just depends how much pain you want in between. I hate pain, so I wanted it to go, like, I actually started to get lots of pain under here, like where I felt my liver was, and like my belly was pushing down, and like everything just felt really ugly, and my clothes weren't fitting. So it was a cost to spend more on clothes or just get rid of the problem. And I thought, well, it's cheaper to get rid of the problem than it is to continue to feed the problem. So yeah, totally. I agree. I always say, like, everything is hard. Choose your hard, and eventually you'll have to choose. You'll be forced to. So you can either choose now and invest in your health, or choose later and pay for medical bills or more clothes or whatever it is. So yeah. Well, we said especially with Ben's cancer experience, like, don't be me. Like, we don't want people to be me, because it costs you a lot more, and it's in the hundreds of thousands. So it's like this little bit to hundreds of thousands. Like, if only we knew, like, if Ben only knew this, like, he's only 36. So if only we knew this, like, I didn't know health. I wasn't taught health. Like, I had no idea what health was. It was turn 18 and drink yourself as a fish. Like, and, you know, you don't have any money when you're younger. Apparently, you know, when you're an apprentice, you just buy the cheapest food. Like, there's a reason it's cheap. It's because you're going to become a health, like a drug client to, you know, and that's going to cost you more. So cheap food is long-term cost, you know, it's not cheap.
Yeah.
Pay the bit. But if only we were taught, you know, like you said, if I was taught this sort of stuff in school or as a teenager and in my 20s, we wouldn't be dealing with terminal cancer. And people go, oh, but yeah, like, there are lots of people that don't value their health. And I think that's a problem.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that is the truth. That is, I say, the real you know, epidemic of our time, and our you know, and every place is different, but most industrialized countries, like more people are overweight than not. More people have disease than not. And it's one of those things where, like, we have to start doing things now, because what people don't realize is that majority of disease is created by our choices, our environment, our everyday. Like, there is some genetic, there's no doubt, but those genetics don't even have to show up if you change right now. So like I say, if it, you know, 5-10 years in the making, if you're not, you know, if you're wanting to avoid long-term health issues, then make the change now, right? Because that's like, whenever that is, if that's when you're 20, if that's when you're 30, when you're 40, 50, like, it doesn't matter. Teach your kids different, right? Now is the time. So I think you're absolutely right. So,
and because of doing this, like, I'm able to teach my kids now, like, they're only one, like, you've just given them a 40-year advantage. Like, that's God's work stuff. Like, that's pretty beautiful.
Yeah,
that's
totally.
a big thing. Yeah,
I think that's huge. Yep, totally. I look at my little girl today. I was giving her, we were eating lunch. She says, Dad, is this turkey the good kind or the bad kind? Does this have good stuff in it or bad stuff? And she's 3, right? And I said, this is the good kind. And she said, good. You know, like, it's invaluable. So yeah, I'm very grateful that I, you know, our kids are young, and you know, we've been able to teach them that, because that's when it starts, right? We determine now what our children will deal with when they're older. So so awesome. Well, Kristie, you've seen some great progress, and you guys obviously have a great mindset around health already, but had some great, sounds like some good breakthroughs and some good things that you've experienced. And it's been a really pleasure for me, and I know for Kenna as well, our coach, you've worked with as well, to work with you, and super excited for the progress that's happened, of course, that will happen and continue to happen. So any last thoughts, any last words for anyone who might be watching this, whether they're on the program, not on the program yet? What are any last thoughts you'd like to share?
Any last thoughts I'd like to share is stay committed, because there was times that I felt like jumping off the train, and then I'd wake up to one of the messages, aren't you glad you didn't fall off the track? And I'm like, yes. So there were some times I questioned, going, I was upset, like, because that we had some things going on in our, and all I wanted to do was eat myself to death to get rid of that feeling. The power is in saying yes to you and no to the emotion, because the emotion itself is made up of a chemical balance in your head. And you're just like, if there was any final words, when you're feeling highly emotional, walk away from the kitchen.
Totally, right? Great words. And I would even add, as you're walking away, figure out why you want to use food to cope, right? Because that's, if you can figure out that deep emotion and the stress and what's really going on,
right,
that's a key thing, I think.
Because I didn't realize I had an emotional food addiction. I was obsessed and addicted to potatoes. And I haven't had them since I did that long page of questions. I lost that craving, so to speak, for it. It was really odd. I've eaten them for 40 years. Anyway, but my last piece, if there was anything, it's kind of like, you don't know what you don't know until you give it a go. That's it. Like, trust yourself that the process is going to work out exactly the way you intend it to. If you don't want it to work, you're not going to make it work, and you'll blame everybody else for it. but the only person we can blame is ourselves. And then I'm like, congratulate yourself every time you say yes. And it is, and there are hard times. Like, this isn't like oh, this is super easy. The gold is in the obstacle and getting through it. Like, we're our own worst enemy. And it's so great having a community to share that with. Like, you have to surround yourself with the people that are on the same train. Someone who's on that track over there is not going to understand the track that you're on. And having our group calls each week, and that support, like, just to type something, just knowing, like, I don't use it a lot because I know you're there, and just knowing you're there is good for me, because sometimes knowing you're there, I tend to figure out what I'm going to say to you anyway, and then I'm like, oh, I'd just do that.
Yeah.
But knowing that we're not alone for it, and that no matter what you feel or what size you are, it's, if you don't like it, change it. So yeah, I'm so pleased. And I still took the courage to say, yes, I want to lose the 10 kilos. It's not a lot, and yes, I would look skinny to a lot of people, but it was a problem for me, and I had to do it for me. And yeah, I'm so excited I did this.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it's been an honor for us to be part of the journey. So you do all the work. We just get to kind of guide and be part of it and support, which we're very grateful that we get to be part of it with you. So again, congratulations to you and your progress. We want to support or celebrate that for you and the success that you've had and the inspiration you guys are for other people as well. So again, thank you for also sharing your story with us today. So super grateful that you're willing to hop on here and share your story. So,
well, thanks for having me. So
yeah, of course. Okay,
yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Kristie. And if anybody's watching and you're again like, hey, this is awesome, let me know more. Comment below. I'm sure Kristie can comment, whatever. But we're happy to chat. So, again, thanks, Kristie, for being here, and we'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Jared. Thanks,
Okay.
guys.
See ya.